In the summer of 1976, a kid could disappear for 10 hours, and nobody worried. No phone, no check-ins. The only rule, be home when the streetlights came on. What happened in between is something most parents today would call 911. Kids built forts on construction sites, drank from garden hoses full of lead, rode bikes with no helmets down hills steep enough to send them into traffic. And when they got hurt, the response was always the same. Rub some dirt on it, you're fine. This was just summer. Stick around for number 3. It's the one toy that sent thousands of kids to the emergency room, and parents handed it to their children themselves. Here are 10 things every 70s kid did all summer that would terrify parents today. Item 1. Building forts on construction sites. Every neighborhood had one. A half-finished house, foundation poured, framing going up, completely unattended after the workers went home. To kids, this wasn't a hazard, it was a playground. You climbed exposed framing 2 stories up. You walked across floor joists with nothing underneath but dirt and rebar. You found scrap wood, rusted nails, leftover insulation, and built forts out of all of it. Hammering nails with rocks because nobody had a real hammer. Cuts from rusted nails were so common that tetanus shots were practically a back-to-school tradition. Nobody called the construction company. Nobody put up a fence that actually stopped anyone. It was just the best playground in the neighborhood. And it was free. Item 2. Drinking from the garden hose. On a hot day, you didn't go inside for water. You found the hose. It had been lying in the sun for hours. The water that came out first was warm, sometimes hot, and tasted like rubber and metal. You drank it anyway. Everyone did. Garden hoses in the 1970s were made with lead stabilizers. The water sitting inside them leached lead with every hour in the sun. Studies decades later found lead levels in hose water high enough to be considered unsafe for drinking. Nobody knew that then. The hose was just the most convenient water source on the planet, and on a 95-degree afternoon, you weren't waiting for anyone to bring you a glass. Item 3. Lawn darts. This is the one. Lawn darts looked like oversized darts for a backyard game, except each one weighed close to a pound, with a steel tip sharp enough to puncture a skull. The game was simple. Throw them at a target on the ground. In practice, kids threw them at each other, on purpose, by accident. It didn't matter. These were heavy metal spikes flying through the air in suburban backyards across America. Between 1970 and 1988, lawn darts sent an estimated 6,700 kids to the emergency room. At least 4 children died. They weren't banned until 1988. For nearly 2 decades, this was a toy you could buy at any department store, wrap up for a birthday, and hand directly to a child. Item 4. Riding in the back of a pickup truck. If your family had a pickup truck and too many kids for the cab, the solution was simple. Kids rode in the bed. Open air, no seatbelts, no sides high enough to actually stop a body from going over them. You sat against the wheel wells, gripped the metal edges, and felt every bump in the road launch you a few inches off the floor. Highway speeds. Open tailgates. Kids standing up to feel the wind. It was completely legal in most states well into the 1980s. Some states still allow it today, with restrictions. Nobody felt unsafe. It felt like freedom. The wind, the noise, the view of the road disappearing behind you. It was one of the best parts of being a kid. It was also, statistically, one of the most dangerous places a child could be. Item 5. Unsupervised swimming in quarries and rivers. No lifeguard, no fence, no swim at your own risk sign, because the sign implied someone had thought about it. Abandoned quarries filled with water were everywhere in the 1970s, and to kids, they were the best swimming holes around. Deep, cold, with rock ledges to jump from and currents nobody measured. You rode your bike there with friends, jumped in, and swam for hours. Nobody knew how deep it was. Nobody knew what was under the surface. Old equipment, sudden drop-offs, currents that pulled, drownings happened. Every kid knew a story about someone who almost didn't make it back up, or didn't make it back at all. It didn't stop anyone from going back the next weekend. Item 6. Playing on metal playground equipment in summer. By July, the playground was a weapon. Metal slides absorbed direct sunlight all day, and reached temperatures hot enough to cause second-degree burns on bare skin. Kids went down them anyway, in shorts, with bare legs, and came off the bottom with the backs of their thighs burning red. Metal monkey bars and swing chains got hot enough to blister hands. The ground underneath most equipment was asphalt or packed dirt. No rubber matting, no wood chips, nothing to soften a fall from 8 feet up. Falls were common. Burns were common. Kids learned to test the slide with their hand first, and if it was too hot, they used it anyway and just went faster. Item 7. Clackers. 2 acrylic balls on a string with a ring in the middle. You held the ring, swung the balls up and down, and made them smash into each other above and below your hand, faster and faster until they cracked together like gunshots. Kids everywhere had these. Schoolyards sounded like a war zone during recess. The problem was the acrylic. Under repeated impact, the balls would sometimes shatter, sending sharp plastic fragments flying directly at the user's face and hands. Eye injuries were reported. Lacerations were common. They were pulled from shelves in the mid-1970s, after enough injury reports piled up. But for a brief window, every kid in America was swinging 2 small explosives next to their own face for fun. Item 8. Mowing the lawn barefoot. This sounds like an exaggeration. It isn't. Push mowers in the 1970s had spinning steel blades inches off the ground, no blade guards on the sides, and a kill switch that often didn't work even when it existed. And kids mowed lawns, for money, for chores, for their own family's yard, in flip-flops. Sometimes barefoot entirely. The logic was simple. It was hot, shoes were uncomfortable, and nobody had told you not to. Toes and fingers under lawnmower blades were common enough injuries that emergency rooms had a name for the pattern. Parents handed a child a gas-powered mower with an exposed spinning blade and said, "Don't forget the edges." Item 9. Backyard bottle rocket wars. Fireworks laws in the 1970s varied wildly by state, and enforcement varied even more. Bottle rockets, small fireworks that launched into the air and exploded, were sold to children at roadside stands with essentially no age verification. And kids didn't just light them off into the sky. They aimed them at each other. Backyard wars involved groups of kids lighting bottle rockets and launching them horizontally at other kids who dodged, ran, and sometimes got hit directly. Burns were common. Eye injuries happened. Houses occasionally caught fire. It was treated the same as a water gun fight, just with actual explosives. Item 10. Disappearing all day with 0 check-ins. This is the one that ties everything together. Every single thing on this list happened without a single parent watching, not because parents didn't care, but because checking in wasn't something that existed yet. A kid left the house in the morning and came back when the streetlights turned on. In between, they could be anywhere, doing anything, with anyone. Nobody had a phone. Nobody had a way to call for help if something went wrong. If you got hurt, you walked home, or a friend ran to get help, or you just dealt with it yourself. Parents weren't negligent by the standards of their time. They were doing exactly what their parents had done. The world simply hadn't yet decided that this much freedom came with this much risk. Look back at this list. Hot metal slides, lead-laced hose water, steel darts flying through backyards, kids riding loose in truck beds at highway speed, all of it happening every single day, all summer, with 0 adult supervision. And somehow, most of us turned out fine. Some of us still have the scars to prove it. The strange thing isn't that any of this happened. The strange thing is how normal it felt at the time. Nobody thought twice. Nobody called it dangerous. It was just summer. So here's the question. Which one of these did you actually do? Lawn darts? The garden hose? The truck bed? Tell me in the comments, and tell me the one that scares you most looking back now. If this video gave you that uneasy, "Wait, we really did that" feeling, there's more where this came from. Subscribe, because next time we're going somewhere even darker.